Story 1. I was looking to get a storage unit a few years back. The man who ran the place was walking out of the front door with someone just as I pulled up. He told me that he was going to show this person a unit and that he would be back in a few minutes. Not being in any rush, I told him it was no problem and patiently waited. I figured it would give me a chance to look around the property and see how secure the place looked before deciding whether or not I wanted to rent there. While I was waiting, I spotted a trash can by the door and thought it was a good time to clean up some of the clutter that had been collecting in my car. I started tossing out old receipts, coffee cups, and a few random wrappers that had been sitting in the center console for weeks. As I was trying to unstick a piece of gum from the console, I heard someone pull into the parking spot next to me. A moment later, I heard the person get out and start banging loudly on the front door in frustration. The employee had clearly put up a large, easy-to-read sign that said, "In the lot, will return in 10 minutes." It was obvious enough that anyone paying attention could see it, so I assumed the person would understand and wait along with me. But of course, I was wrong. The man walked right up behind me and said, "Hey man, can you give me my gate code?" I gave up on the gum, turned around, and replied politely, "Sorry, I don't work here." He didn't back down and responded with a rude tone. "Give me a break, pal. You're sitting here cleaning your car. Get up and give me my code already." My patience quickly started to fade. My smile turned into a frown as I said firmly, "I can't give you a code. I don't work here, buddy." He mumbled something under his breath, clearly irritated, and wandered off toward the storage unit area, as if that would somehow help him find what he was looking for. A few minutes later, I saw him return with the employee, and I overheard him complaining that I should be fired for refusing to help him. The employee just shook his head in disbelief, unlocked the office door, and let the man inside. I'm sure the employee saw my expression because he walked straight over to me afterward with a big grin on his face. He said, "Sorry, sir. He's one of our local troublemakers. Let me give him his code real quick, and I'll make it up to you with a good deal on a unit if you decide to rent with us. Just hang tight for another minute." The impatient man came back out a few moments later, still looking annoyed, got into his car, and drove off without offering so much as a simple apology for his behavior. Once he was gone, the employee returned and apologized again, saying that the man had caused problems there before. To make up for the hassle, he offered me a 10% discount for 6 months if I chose to rent a unit. That unexpected bit of kindness made the whole situation worth it. I ended up signing a contract for a unit that same day, and every time I stopped by afterward, the employee greeted me with a friendly smile and a quick story about whatever odd character had shown up that week. Story 2. I've been a retail manager for a drugstore chain for over a decade. I've had a wide spectrum of employees. But this employee, we'll call him Ken, was the worst of them all. At the end of the night, the employees share responsibilities on cleaning, sweeping, and organizing the store. Ken constantly gave a response that he didn't sign up to be a janitor. He refused to do anything else beyond cashiering, and there were times he lacked in that as well. Ken was constantly calling off and ditching work. After we gave him a written warning and him not showing up became excessive, we cut his hours. When he continued to ditch his work, his hours were cut to the bare minimum. Shortly after, Ken started to whine for a raise, specifically an increase of $10 per hour. Me, being a shift manager, I do not make $10 more per hour than Ken. He started to complain that he wasn't paid enough, so he couldn't pay his rent, adding on that we would all have to answer for it. I reminded him that the company was paying commission on a luxury skin care line, $5 commission per product. Sell 2 an hour, you got your $10 raise. He whined that it was too much work. A customer who was the manager of a movie theater offered him a part-time job. He was fired a week later for bad attendance. 2 no-shows and 3 tardies. I told him that the local car dealership was hiring. They were paying the same we paid per hour plus commission. Ken scoffed and said that he didn't want a sales job. I told him that the local Red Lobster was hiring. Ken scoffed and said serving was too much work. Ken constantly complained that we only criticized him and never praised him. I told him praise is earned, not given. I believe somewhere in Ken's mind, he was doing a great job and was irreplaceable. Quite often Ken said he was going to play in the NFL and be extremely wealthy someday. He also said that his parents kicked him out of their house and made him get a job, ruining his dreams. At this time I had several employees who had just graduated high school, this being their first job. Ken was 28 years old, only a year younger than me. This is the type of behavior I was expecting from my teen employees, not someone in his late 20s. I think it's safe to say Ken wanted to get paid a lot for doing nothing and didn't realize he's an adult. So one day another manager and I had to bring Ken back into the office to talk to him about his whining and an incident. Ken tried to get out of us if he was going to get fired. We told him the store manager was going to decide. When we wouldn't give a straight answer, Ken said he quit and left his name badge behind. He continued walking out the door scoffing, saying how this place sucks. He's out of here for good, and that we were going to be sorry. That manager and I both wrote affidavits saying what happened. I had all the other on-duty employees write affidavits describing what Ken said. Ken came back the next day to collect his paycheck. He left saying we would all pay for what we did to him and that we'd all be sorry. I think in Ken's mind he thought he was a star employee. A few weeks later, we got notification that Ken had filed for unemployment. Thanks to all our affidavits and some video footage, it was proof enough that Ken quit on his own accord, meaning no unemployment. Some of you might be asking why Ken had not been fired early on. Ken was black and kept screaming discrimination and racism at management. There was another black worker. Great employee HR had been notified of his claim. Under HR's advice, to prevent discrimination lawsuits, document more bad acts and poor workmanship. So far we have received no lawsuits from Ken, and I believe his statute of limitations has expired. Story 3. Cast: Coworker 1 who is female, Coworker 2 who is male, and finally the entitled customer. Since August 2020, I've been working in a pet store where I give advice about animal caretaking. Most customers gladly listen to our advice, yet some think they own the world and will only listen to themselves. Since I only work like 1 or 2 days a week, I'm a full-time student. I don't come in contact with many entitled customers, but my coworkers do, and they've got a beautiful story to tell last week. So this man, the entitled customer, in his late 60s, early 70s, has been a customer with us for a little over a year. He always came in every week, mostly on Saturdays. Since he's not mobile, he was relying on an Uber to bring him there and take him home again. This man also loved having birds, but he didn't particularly know how to take care of them, and that's how all of the birds ended up dying. He would always call the day after a bird died to ask for a new bird, or to get half the price for a new bird, and since we didn't have any evidence of bad housing, we had to give it to him. This has been going on for at least half a year. I will add that we can add on the receipt that a customer is not getting a refund if we have evidence of bad housing before buying the animal. People can also get a refund or get a new animal if the purchased animal died within a month, only if they can say it wasn't their own fault. About 2 weeks ago, the entitled customer came into the store again, this time to buy 2 budgies, and this is how it went. Entitled customer: Hi, I would like to buy 2 budgies. Coworker 1 had already seen this man coming in and was preparing himself for it. Okay, come with me. I'll let you look at the birds. They went to look at the birds, and the entitled customer chose for 2 regular-looking budgies. Before buying them, he remembered that he needed an Uber to bring him home. However, he had forgotten his cell phone, so he asked us to call an Uber for him. Coworker 2, looking at the Uber service for the right phone number and seeing it's a paid number. I'm sorry, sir, but this is a paid number, so we can't call it for you. You have to ask someone else. Entitled customer: Well then, I'll just go home by myself then. Which would literally take about an hour to 2 hours. It was a rainy day that day, and it was extremely cold, below 10 degrees Celsius. Not particularly pleasant weather for two budgies. Coworker 2. I wouldn't do that, sir. It's raining and it's cold outside and the budgies could die from being outside in this weather. Definitely not listening to us, like he would ever. The customer said, "No, I'm going home like this, and you can't tell me what I can and cannot do." So, since we cannot say no to a customer, we had to sell him the budgies. But my coworker now had evidence of him transporting the birds in such a way it might kill them, so she added, "No refund due to bad housing" on the receipt. And as expected, the entitled customer called back to the store 2 days later. "The birds are dead. This is all your fault. I expect to get 2 new ones for free." Coworker 1, picking up the phone. "I'm sorry, sir, but we have told you in advance that the way you transported the birds could end up killing them. You refused to listen even though you knew what we told you, so we will not be giving you new birds for free." Entitled customer, clearly irritated. "Well then, I will never come back to your store again. This is not how you treat your customers," and hung up immediately. We haven't heard from him or seen him since. It's safe to say we are all relieved that this man will not be a customer with us anymore, so he cannot kill any more birds. Story 4. I'm posting this because I still can't believe what happened to me yesterday, and I need to know if I'm crazy or if this situation was insane. A bit about me first. I'm in my 40s and disabled. I know I don't always look it because I have one of those younger-looking faces, probably made worse by the weight I've put on from medication side effects. My disabilities aren't always visible, which has caused problems before, but usually people are decent about it. I carry a collapsible cane with me for when things get really bad, but I don't always need it out. This whole mess started after a work orientation that ran way longer than I expected. By the time I got to the bus stop, I was completely wiped out. My legs were shaking, my back was screaming, and I knew I'd pushed myself way too hard. When the bus pulled up, I practically dragged myself on board. The driver definitely saw me struggling up those steps. I took the first available seat, which was one of those disabled priority seats at the front that face the aisle. There are 3 of them on the right side. I collapsed into the one closest to the door because I genuinely couldn't go any further. No one said anything. No one cared. Everything was fine. A few stops later, a woman with a stroller got on and took a spot on the left side of the bus with her baby. Still no issues. Then we got to the stop where everything went sideways. This older woman, maybe in her 60s, gets on the bus with one of those grocery carts. Not a walker or a rollator or anything medical, just a regular shopping cart. She positions herself right at the front of the bus, standing with her cart in this tiny space near the driver. The bus driver notices immediately. The driver told her she needed to sit down because we were about to get on the freeway. She refused, saying she was fine standing where she was. He insisted that he couldn't have passengers standing at the front when we were on the freeway and asked her again to take a seat. She got louder and said she didn't want to sit and was staying right there. She started getting even louder about it. The driver kept asking her to sit, and she kept refusing. I'm sitting there thinking this is weird, but whatever. There are empty seats all around, including 2 right next to me. If she wants to have a standoff with the bus driver, that's between them. I physically couldn't move even if I wanted to. My legs felt like jelly. Then I hear this voice from the back of the bus. Some teenage girl was asking me loudly why I wasn't giving that woman my seat. She was staring at me like I just kicked a puppy. I told her I was disabled and needed this seat. She fired back that the woman was older than me and had groceries, and that I needed to move. I explained there were empty seats right next to me and that I couldn't move. She called me disrespectful and said I should be ashamed of myself. The woman with the cart just stood there, not saying anything, but she had this look on her face like she was vindicated or something. The girl kept going, saying the woman shouldn't have to ask me and that I should just do the right thing. I told her again that I was doing the right thing by sitting in a disabled seat because I was disabled, and that the woman could sit in any of the other seats. The girl shot back that I didn't look disabled and to stop making excuses. My face was burning. Everyone on the bus was staring now. The woman with the stroller looked uncomfortable. Some other passengers were shifting in their seats. The girl announced loudly that people like me were what was wrong with society and that I had no respect for my elders. The driver tried to step in, telling her that I had every right to sit there and that he'd watch me board the bus. But the girl wasn't listening. She got up and started walking toward the front of the bus. My heart started pounding because I realized she was going to try to make this physical. She told me that if I wouldn't move, she'd help me move. Then she actually grabbed my arm and tried to pull me up out of the seat. Pain shot through my shoulder and I yelped. That's when other passengers finally stepped in. One passenger shouted at her, asking what she was doing and telling her to get her hands off me. Another yelled that she couldn't just grab people and to leave me alone. The woman with the stroller stood up and said that I was struggling when I got on the bus, that she saw it, and that I needed that seat. Another older man, probably in his 70s, spoke up from a few rows back. He told the girl that he was older than both of us, and he could see that I needed to sit. He said there were plenty of other seats and that she was being ridiculous. The girl let go of my arm, looking shocked that people were defending me. The bus driver had stopped the bus by now and stood up. He announced that either everyone sat down right now or he was calling transit security. He made it clear that meant the woman with the cart needed to sit down, and the girl needed to leave me alone. The woman finally huffed and pulled her cart over to one of the other disabled seats and sat down. The girl walked back to her seat in the back. But it wasn't over. For the rest of the ride, both of them kept staring at me. The woman would whisper to the girl whenever she looked back, and they'd both stare at me like I was some kind of monster. The girl took a photo of me with her phone at one point. I don't even know what that was about. When I finally got to my stop, I could barely stand up. My legs had stiffened up from the stress and sitting, and I had to pull out my cane to get down the bus steps. The driver waited patiently for me. He asked if I was okay. I told him yeah and thanked him for backing me up. He said not to worry about those two, and that some people just like to start trouble. When I stepped off the bus, I could feel them still staring at me through the windows. The girl was definitely recording me on her phone while I limped away with my cane. The whole thing has been eating at me since it happened. Was I supposed to just give up my seat and risk falling? Why was that woman so determined to stand, and then so determined to get my seat specifically when there were others available? Why did that girl think it was okay to physically grab me? And why did no one step in until she put her hands on me? I keep replaying it in my head. If she wanted my specific seat for some reason, what was that about? A power trip? Some kind of test? And how did she get this random teenager to fight her battle for her? Did she tell the girl I refused to move for her? Did she lie about asking me? The passengers who defended me were great, and I'm grateful for them. But it took someone physically assaulting me for them to speak up. That's the part that really bothers me. Anyway, I needed to get this off my chest. Maybe one of you has dealt with something similar. I'm definitely filing a report with the transit authority about the assault, but I don't know if anything will come of it. Story 5. My grandpa has had trouble the last few weeks, so he is in the hospital. About 2 weeks ago, my grandma invited her longtime friend over for a chat over lunch. We were having a nice talk in the living room. About 20 minutes after she arrived, there was a knock at the door. A week before this, I fell down the stairs and broke my foot, so I couldn't answer the door. My grandma gets up and opens the door, and to her surprise, her friend's daughter, the entitled mother, showed up with her son, nice kid, as well. Of course, as we were not expecting this, she asked if she could come in. Being the nice lady my grandmother is, she welcomed her in. I am sitting on the couch that is directly visible from the front door and try to ignore this. I'm extremely antisocial, but well, I can't really move if I wanted to. As she walks in, my dog greets them at the door, extremely excited. At this point, I call the dog over so that there are no problems. She's a hyper dog, so she can get a bit intense. The entitled mother follows the dog with her eyes, which leads her gaze to me. She looks at my foot with a disgusted look. It is in a boot halfway up my leg. Well, hello there, what happened to your foot? I fell down the stairs when my foot got caught on the carpet. She walks over to me, staring intently at the boot on my left leg. All of a sudden, she reaches for it and begins undoing the Velcro, keeping it tight. I instinctively jolt my other leg to move her away. Why would you kick me? She snapped as I readjusted the boot. I don't think you understood. It's broken. I cannot take this off. Doctor's orders. But I want to see it. I'm sorry, if I take it off, there is a chance it could misplace itself. And even if it didn't, it would hurt. Well, I'll just be careful then. My son had strep throat as a kid and still sent him to school. You teenagers need to be more respectful and grow up. Hearing this, my grandmother's friend was annoyed. I was also getting a little annoyed at this point and called for my dad upstairs. He already disliked this entitled mother, as did most people in my family, so I knew he had my back. What's going on? I'm working. Your son thinks he is special because his foot is broken. He won't let me see it. My dad is a man from the South, and he values being polite and respectful, so this entitled mother really irritated him. Alrighty, if you want to see it, pay him, he said sarcastically. $500 in pay for the hospital bill. No, all I wanted was to see the foot. I should be able to do what I want. My son, my house, my rules. If you don't like it, you can leave. Before she could say anything, my grandmother's friend stood up and walked outside, extremely angry, which is very rare. She is one of the nicest ladies I've ever met. She apologized and demanded the entitled mother walk out of the house and go home. She politely asked if we could take her home later, as she wanted to have a nice time without the drama, which nobody seemed to have a problem with. She's fairly old, 75-80, and doesn't like driving in the dark. As the kid got in the car, I could see he was super upset that they had to leave. He is very friendly, but is stuck with a horrible mother. My dad now prevents the entitled mother from coming to our house, but grandmother's friend still comes over frequently. A lot of the time we have her over during the day when the entitled mother is at work and doesn't know. Story 6. I'm a 26-year-old woman, and I've been struggling with my 56-year-old mother's behavior for the past couple of years. Sadly, it has only gotten worse. Recently, my mom has been very emotionally aggressive. She seems to live in her own version of reality, which is completely distorted. And she never takes responsibility for her words or actions. It's never her fault. For some background, we have a small family business run by my father and now my brother. My mother helped build the company, but she never really worked full-time there. Instead, she would often go out shopping or meet friends during work hours. My dad never had an issue with this, especially now that my brother has taken over more responsibilities. She also never learned how to use a computer, so she has no idea what to do when a client makes a purchase. The only thing she's truly skilled at is consulting clients, and that's about it. Now, on to the negatives. She hasn't really had a goal in life lately. When we were children, she was busy with us and our education. But after we moved out, she hasn't had anything meaningful to do during the day. She fixates on small problems and blows them out of proportion, turning them into huge ordeals. She's extremely direct, so much so that she can't maintain friendships because she lacks diplomacy. She confuses being blunt with being honest. She has always been somewhat negative, but now it's completely out of control. She's constantly irritated with my father and makes sure everyone knows it. In her eyes, all her life problems are his fault. Despite living a very privileged life with constant trips, sometimes expensive and far away, she remains ungrateful. Honestly, I think my dad takes her on these trips just to keep her from bothering him. Her daily routine is exhausting to witness. She wakes up at 4 in the morning, spends hours on social media, and then goes to the office just to drink coffee. By mid-morning, she naps for a few hours, claiming exhaustion from working so hard or citing non-existent health issues. She wakes up moody, complains, bosses people around, and lashes out at my father and brother over trivial matters. By evening, she's back home, does no housework, spends more time on social media, and goes to bed early only to repeat the same cycle the next day. My dad is frustrated by my mother's lack of discipline. She doesn't do much around the house, and whenever he suggests hiring external help, such as a cleaning service, she refuses, claiming she doesn't trust them. Most of my parents' arguments stem from housework. Eventually, my dad loses patience and starts yelling because he can't take it anymore. But then she turns it around, telling everyone he's extremely aggressive and controlling. As a child, she would speak badly about my father, which made me feel a mix of fear and reluctant respect for him. Later, I realized he wasn't as bad as she made him out to be. He's just a workaholic, while she simply doesn't want to work. Now, she claims that we've all teamed up with my dad against her, just because he has the money. She also insists that other men take care of their wives financially, and that my dad is the only one who doesn't. In reality, she receives around €1,000 a month, which she spends on shopping, yet somehow, it's still not enough for her. I'm honestly shocked at how someone can be so ungrateful for the life she has. Whenever we try to confront her about her behavior, we remain calm and attempt to give her advice. But the moment we do, she starts yelling and screaming, saying that we're all against her, that we don't love her, and that we hate her. She bursts into tears, and at that point, it's impossible to continue the conversation. We've been trying to convince her to see a therapist because her behavior is making everyday life extremely difficult. She creates drama over the smallest things and treats everyone with cynicism. I don't want to be around her, but at the same time, I can't just cut her off. She's my mother. The problem is, we can't even have a normal conversation with her. If we try, she just insists that she's different, but in her mind, that means she's quirky. I have never heard her take responsibility for her words, even when she was extremely rude to me, my brother, or even clients. She always has some kind of excuse or justification. When confronted with advice or rational solutions, she either ignores the words completely or responds with something dismissive like, "be quiet," or other mild insults. As a side note, my father isn't perfect, he has his flaws, but compared to her, they're minor. Honestly, I'm worried that she's going to wear him down completely. With the constant stress she puts him under, I fear he might end up having a serious health issue. Sometimes, I feel like my mother lives in a world where she's always the victim. Nothing is ever her responsibility. If she forgets something, it's because someone distracted her. If she hurts someone's feelings, it's because they took it the wrong way. It's exhausting trying to reason with her because logic simply doesn't work. When we were growing up, my brother and I often tried to make her happy. We thought that if we behaved perfectly, maybe she would finally relax or be content. But no matter what we did, it was never enough. If we got good grades, she would find something to criticize. If we helped around the house, she'd still find fault with the way we did it. It always felt like walking on eggshells, trying not to trigger another argument or emotional outburst. Over the years, it became clearer that she doesn't really want solutions, she wants attention and control. If she's not the center of a situation, she creates one. My dad tries to ignore her behavior, but I can tell he's emotionally drained. He works long hours, then comes home only to be met with constant complaints. She'll accuse him of not caring or not spending enough time with her. But when he does try to plan something nice, she'll criticize it or find a reason to ruin it. I've even noticed that she competes with other women. If a family friend buys something new, she suddenly needs something similar, if not more expensive. If someone mentions their vacation, she'll make sure to one-up them or mock their choice of destination. It's like she can't be happy for anyone else. Everything turns into a comparison or a competition. My brother tries to stay patient, but even he's reached his limit. He's married now, and his wife doesn't want to visit our parents often because of how unpredictable my mother can be. Sometimes, my mom will be sweet and cheerful, but within minutes, she'll find something to criticize or start an argument out of nowhere. She doesn't realize how her behavior is pushing people away. What's even more painful is that she refuses to see any issue with her actions. If we mention therapy, she scoffs at the idea and says, "I don't need help. You're the ones with a problem." It's heartbreaking because I know therapy could help her understand her emotions and maybe even improve her relationships. But she's too proud to consider it. There have been times when I tried to limit contact with her to protect my own mental health. But then she'll call me repeatedly, leaving emotional messages about how I've abandoned her or that I'm an ungrateful daughter. She knows exactly how to guilt-trip me, and it works every time. I end up talking to her again, hoping things will be better, but the cycle always repeats. I've also noticed she changes her story depending on who she's talking to. She'll tell one version of events to my father, another to my brother, and a completely different one to her friends. That makes it hard to address issues because she denies ever saying certain things or insists we're twisting her words. It feels like dealing with someone who refuses to live in reality. Despite everything, I don't hate her. Deep down, I know she's struggling with something internal, maybe loneliness or insecurity, but she refuses to admit it. I've suggested she try new hobbies, volunteer work, or even social clubs to give her life more purpose, but she never follows through. She prefers to stay in her comfort zone, even though it makes her miserable. What hurts the most is that I used to look up to her. When I was little, I thought she was the strongest, most confident person in the world. But as I got older, I started to see the cracks, the bitterness, the resentment, and the unwillingness to change. It's sad watching someone you love refuse to grow or take accountability for their actions. At this point, I'm trying to set boundaries for my own peace of mind. I still visit my parents and try to help when I can, but I keep emotional distance. I've learned that trying to reason with her is pointless. The best I can do is remain calm and not feed into her negativity. I just hope that one day, she'll realize how much she's hurting the people who care about her the most. As for my father, I truly worry about him. He's a kind and patient man, but the constant stress is taking a toll. I can see it in his face and hear it in his voice. Sometimes, I wonder if he's staying in the marriage out of love or simply out of obligation. Either way, I wish my mother could see how her behavior affects him, and all of us. In the end, I still love her deeply. She's my mother, and no matter how difficult she can be, I don't want to lose hope. I just wish she could see the damage her actions cause and choose to change before it's too late.